I'm ready. Just.
Oh wait, do you need lines?
Go ahead.
So today we're going over a board game that my friend Dean here has made. So Dean, can you tell me more about this game?
Yes I can. The game is called Deadlock, and it is a board game, as you can see here. And the main goal of the game is that you're on one of two teams. You're either on these guys, the antibodies, or these dudes, the primers. And what you want to do is you want to go to the other side of the board. And
Now, what does that mean, antibody and primer?
okay, well, basically this game takes place in a universe where this meteorite hit the planet, and it caused all the electronics on the world to shut down because it altered the magnetic field. And basically, after some tinkering with it, people found that this technology that was on the meteorite, or the element that was on it, which is referred to as corrugite, could be used to make new things and repair the old technology as well as make new stuff.
So you've really invented like an entire backstory for this game.
Yeah, I was inspired kind of by Metroid Prime, because they have that whole phase-on thing crashing into the planet, which mutates things, and I wanted to do something similar to that, but make it a little different.
So yeah, tell me how you play.
Alright, so how you play is, you have these pieces here, and what you do is everybody gets 3 player pieces. So as you can see, they have the little insignia. The primers have the little P with the arrow, and the antibodies they're government bodies, so they're just the basic AB. And you put them on these light green squares, which are like the spawn points. And basically what you want to do is you have a 6-sided die, and you roll the die, and whatever number you get, you can either move that many spaces, or if you subtract 1 from your die roll, you can put down a wall, which you have 4 of at the beginning of the game. Both sides have 4. And if you put down a wall, you cannot cross that space. So if you're playing this guy over here, and you get a 2, you can move down and then right, or you can move right and then down, but you can't go right and then right because you can't move over this wall, unless you used a bridge piece, which can go over walls. But you need to subtract 2 from your dice roll to use that, so you have to get at least a 2. And even then, if you get a 2 and then you put down a bridge, you won't be able to use it. Now, as you can see on the actual game board, there are some yellow and gray markings, and those represent walls that are they're inherent to the game board. You can't remove them, but you can put bridges over them to shorten the time it takes you to get from point A to point B if you want. And so basically what happens if you're playing the game and you have, say, 1 player of one team over here and 1 player of one team over here, and this guy gets a 2 and lands right on you, then your guy gets knocked out and he's removed from play, and then you spawn in another guy. Because how it is each player they have 6 player pieces, but 3 are in the reserves. They're like your reinforcements. So once you lose all 3 reinforcements, that's it. You don't have any more, and you just have the people that are left on the board. But if you can capture one of the enemy's corrugite pieces, which are one of these little pink circles with the C on them, then you can bring back a guy from the graveyard, or spawn in a new guy from reinforcements. But people in the graveyard take priority.
So you said that the objective is to get onto the other side of the other team's base or zone, essentially, right?
Yeah.
What happens after that?
Well, it's a little complicated from here. Originally, you were just supposed to have 1 person in each of the spawn zones, which is a concept I toyed around with in an early design, which you can see here. I originally had it like a sideways eye, kind of, but I decided that would be a little too complex. And I was inspired by the design philosophy Shigeru Miyamoto has when he talked about designing a world that makes sense for the world that the game inhabits. So Mario jumps a lot, so his worlds have a lot of platforms, and Link's an explorer, so his worlds are a lot more open and have a lot of caves.
So with that philosophy in mind, how did your design change over time to kind of more fit that idea or vision?
Well, I thought about it, and at the end of the day, when you're having a conflict between two sides, in this case, the government antibodies who want to take the Korgite and make weapons with it, and the primers who found that if you crush up the Korgite, it turns into a fine powder, and when you inhale it, it makes you super high. So they claim to be the People's Party, but they just want to take all this stuff and get super high with it. And the story changes depending on who wins, because
I think that's something we can all relate to.
getting high part.
No. Yeah. Well, let's continue.
Okay. Anyway, going back to the how to win the game. So at the beginning of the game, each player gets this 5x5 grid marked off with a letter and a number. So it's like horizontally they're represented by a number, and the vertical columns have a letter. So the top left corner is 1A, and the bottom right corner is 5E. So what happens is these grids correlate to the bases on the board, roughly, as you see. And so what happens is once the player enters the opposing team's base, they will search for the Korgite hidden somewhere within here. And how that works is when you have a player piece, let's take this boy, let's take one of the antibodies. He enters the primer base, and let's say he starts at the entrance and he rolls a 3. So he goes 1, 2, 3. So he lands on 2B. And so, he'd call out 2B. And if there's one on 2B, then he gets that piece, and his player piece is taken back to spawn. And if there's less than 3 player pieces of his on the field, he will also bring in one from the graveyard, which is there to sort of balance things out. I kept that in from an older version where you originally just had to land in the endings, but if you only had like 2 player pieces, you couldn't win the game. So it made sense to have it so if you landed in a spawn zone, you would get a free guy, so you could still win even if you only had one dude on the battlefield at once. But anyway, if he calls out 2B and he doesn't get the Korgite piece, he stays there and the game keeps going. And I think that's about it. Do you have any other questions?
I do not, but I think that's a very this is a really interesting game, and I can't wait to get high. I mean, I'll play it with you.
Yeah, I'm glad.
All right, I think that's it.
All right, thanks. All right.